My
to
last
Nashville?
job was probably like 10 hours before I went into labor. It was very challenging for my identity. Slowing down was probably the number one thing that I did. I just was like so like trying to build my whole life around him, and when I feel like I should have just integrated him in my life. There are seasons in your life where motherhood takes precedence, and then there's other seasons in your life where maybe you're not as great of a mom, but you're like killing it in your business.
Welcome to Baby Bump and Business, the podcast for creative moms growing a baby and a brand at the same time. I'm your host, Bee Trofort-Wilson, photographer, educator, and first-time mom to be, sharing the real unfiltered journey of pregnancy, entrepreneurship, and everything in between. Each week, I'll be joined by a fellow creative mom to talk about the beauty, the burnout, and the balance of it all. So let's get into it. Today's guest, we have Tausha Dickinson. Tausha is a Nashville photographer and business mentor who mastered the art of building a six-figure business in the middle of motherhood's beautiful chaos. She's passionate about having honest conversations about what it really takes to grow a business while raising a family. With coffee in one hand and a kid or camera in the other, she proves that you can build big dreams without pretending it's all perfect. Tausha, thank you so much for joining us today.
Yes, I'm so excited to be here.
Awesome. So I want you to let's just get right into it. So
Mhm.
going into your motherhood journey, where were you in your business?
Let me think about this for a second. I was probably, I think, about 11 years into my business, with about a year and a half, two of those being full time.
Perfect, perfect. So transitioning into full time and then into motherhood, is that what I'm hearing?
Mhm. Yeah, like probably 2 years of being full time and then motherhood. Yeah.
Perfect. So being a full-time entrepreneur, I know at 2 years it's still, I mean, I still feel like I'm still learning. So when
Hmm.
you found out
Always.
that you were pregnant, what
Hmm.
was your initial mindset now that you were full-time as a photographer?
My initial mindset was thinking about how crazy I worked and how that wasn't going to work once I had a kid. I knew that I would have to slow down in some regard, but I knew there was no way I was giving up my business. Now, of course, you never know when you're going to have a kid, like what, challenges may come with that, if your kid might be disabled or different things like that. Um, but I knew that if I had a healthy child, that I would continue working.
Gotcha. So going through that pregnancy, what was your plans in terms of maternal leave? Like as a
Mhm.
freelancer and as a creative freelancer, we have to fund our own maternity leave. No one's coming to
Yes.
save us. So
Yeah.
what strategies or what did you start to put in place to prepare for that?
So I, started to think, I mean, I was older when I had a kid, 35. So I started to think like, oh, I could end up having my kid early. So I was trying to look ahead and be like, because at the time I was still shooting a little bit of weddings. And I had a wedding that was planned one month before my due date. And so like I had to communicate with that bride and be like, listen, I'm still 100% planning on coming. However, like I'm bringing a second shooter, even though I don't need one because it's a small wedding. But it is someone who can 100% take over if for any reason I cannot. So just thinking ahead to that. And then also, as far as like actual maternity leave, I knew that I would just need some time. And so I just started planning on slowing down, as it got closer.
Gotcha. So was your last job that wedding, which was a month before your due date,
No.
or how long did you
My
shoot
last
until?
job was, probably, like, 10 hours before I went into labor. Yeah. I had a neighborhood friend, she's adopted 3 kids, and she was like, "Hey, can you do their 6-month photos?" And I was very pregnant, and whenever I would shoot, like, families and stuff, I'd always wear 2 cameras, like, I'd wear that hold fast moneymaker, and so I had 2 cameras on, went out to my neighborhood, like, little green space, and, of course, it's a baby, so I have to, like, crouch the whole time. So, because we were doing them, kind of in the grassy area. So for probably 30 or 45 minutes, I'm just like like basically squatting, doing the photo shoot. And then I went into labor at like 3 that morning,
Oh my
2 weeks before my due date. So
Woo!
yeah.
How was that? So how was that? one, how was that mentally for you? And how was it like physically doing it? Because oftentimes we're,
Yeah.
especially with me being pregnant now, I'm
Mhm.
hearing like you need to stop at this point, and I'm like, if I feel okay, I feel okay. How was that for you?
Oh, man. Well, other than that shoot, like, I wasn't doing as many families and weddings. I was definitely slowing down on that. But so I was still doing a lot of commercial work, and I, at that point, started hiring assistants for every shoot because I was like, "I can't be carrying all this stuff." And so I would have an assistant, like, on every shoot, plus, like, even my clients would be like, "Let me carry that for you," It was very obvious I was pregnant. So, yeah, just having people help out. So for the most part, I had help, but it was just like that one was like, "Oh, for a neighbor, let me run out," and no big deal, but I remember being like, "Oh my god, this is so hard." Um, Crouching like this, and holding like 20 pounds of cameras and lenses.
Right. Oh man, that's funny. So
Yeah.
so how long did you take for your maternity leave after you had your first?
Um, I think the first thing I did was 5 weeks after, which was already planned. It was a workshop, like a lighting workshop for photographers, and so that I believe, I'm not 100% certain, but I believe that was my first thing back, was just going into teaching photographers, and I remember I was, pumping at the time, and I had the Willow wireless, so, like, if I didn't have time to pump, then I would just go put them in and then just keep teaching because um, like, I have to do what I have to do, so I had to do that a couple times during that workshop, but that was my first thing back, and it was, like, really fun to get, like, a little break, because
Right.
motherhood is hard.
Right. And then what was your first shooting job from there?
Geez, I honestly don't know. It was probably a headshot or branding or something like that. I'm not 100% certain,
So
but
you just
it would have
ease
been
yourself.
something in that realm. Yeah.
Gotcha, gotcha. So
Yeah.
what was that adjustment like now that, you went through pregnancy, you have a
Mm,
whole new life, and then you still have to go through, feeding the child, nursing, and all those things while
mhm.
balancing a business. What was that adjustment like?
It was, very challenging for my identity more so than anything else. Like, I've always just been like like, for the longest time, I've been Tausha Dickinson, the photographer, and now it's like, oh, I'm, like, also a mom, and it really did mess with me. Like, I didn't have postpartum depression or anything, but, like, I definitely think I had, like, whatever the other one's called, where it's just, like, some sadness, and like, at one point, I was like, "Maybe I should go see a doctor," but it ended up kind of going away, and I've had friends who've had that, and it's been horrible, so if you have any of those, like, any crazy feelings, you should definitely see somebody, but I definitely struggled with my identity more than anything of just like and being responsible for like a human being, you know?
And so what were things that you did to balance that? 'Cause, often, like you said, we go from this title of being entrepreneur, photographer, and then now you're
Mhm.
adding mother onto this title, but you're still trying
Yes.
to balance who you were before. What were the
Mhm.
things that you did to help yourself get through that mentally?
Slowing down, like I had to. It was just a lot. Thankfully, I had a unusual child who a baby who slept. I would literally have to wake him to feed him. That is not normal, by the way. Normally a kid is, waking up every 2 hours or whatever. But his entire life has just been like, "No, I just wanna sleep." And so there were definitely times I went longer stretches than you're supposed to, because I think if I remember right, it's like every 4 hours or depending on age. But there were definitely times I was like, "I just wanna sleep. I just wanna sleep. I need, like, 1 more hour of sleep." Um, so, yeah, that's the slowing down was probably the number one thing that I did that helped me for sure, was
Gotcha.
just taking a step back and being like, "Okay, I don't need to do this many shoots." I'm very thankful I have a husband who has a, typical corporate job. And so I was able to rely on him, financially. So, but there's something innate in me that like, I'm gonna take care of myself. Um, and I've always been like that. So, and that, might partly be just how I grew up. Like, and I just, yeah. So it was really hard for me because I like to, like, make my own money, even though me and my husband, like, he's not like that, where it's like, "Oh, that's your money, it's my money." but it's innate in me that, like, I have to take care of myself.
Right. And I think that's the thing, especially like as women and entrepreneurs, most of us are very independent, so
Yes.
losing that sense of independence does get to you.
Yes.
Even I know for me, having
Mhm.
to now, like when people like, oh, let me carry this for you or let me do this for you, it's like, I can do it.
Mhm.
I'm just pregnant. But it's
Yeah.
like you do lose a sort of that independence. And that's something you really have to fight with?
Yeah. Well, and, like, having a kid, like, you no longer can just, like, do whatever you wanna do whenever you wanna do it. Uh, and then there's things like I can look back all day and there's things that I can be like, "Oh, I wish I would've," like, I wish when I had my kid that I wouldn't have been like, so, "Oh, he's sleeping, I can't go out." Like, I wish I would just been like, "Whatever, he's sleeping, like, he'll sleep." Like, I just was, like, so, like, trying to build my whole life around him and, when I feel like I should have just integrated him in my life, you
Mm,
know? I
right.
learned that, but it just took time to learn that, "Hey, no, like, yes, I love him and he doesn't rule my life, like, he's a part of my life, so, like, we should be integrating," you know? But it took me a while to get there.
So how did you get so that's actually a really good point. Oftentimes with even like for me when I'm trying to think about this new process where it's like, okay, how do you integrate someone into your lifestyle versus changing your life for that being and not feeling guilty about doing that? So how were you able to do that or what are some things that helped you overcome that?
I think that, like, just like, I think just literally realizing, like, he's gonna sleep, like, and, okay, if we go out to this restaurant and he starts crying and it's crazy, like, we can leave. Like, it's partly, like, you're also thinking about other people in the world and you know how it is when you don't have a kid and you see some kid acting up, like, maybe a toddler or something, and you're just like, "Geez, wish they'd do something," you know? But just realizing almost everything I did, it's like we could go and if, he has a blowout and I don't have an extra outfit, like, we can go back home, you know?
Right.
And just getting to that point quicker.
Gotcha, gotcha. So going into the business side of it, what
Mhm.
systems were you able to create to help you navigate this new journey of motherhood?
So I had some pretty good systems in place, but definitely not perfected. So I think finding everything that I could automate, anything I could automate, which is so much easier now. Because this was a little over 7 years ago, but it's like just finding anything that you can automate, do it. And if you have the budget, like, get an assistant, like, even if it's an admin assistant or something to just help you with those things. It's like, I forget what the exact phrasing is, but it's just like if someone else can do it to 80% and then you have to finish like the 20% or they can do it to 90%, you got to finish the 10, then that's worth your time. It's hard to like cuz sometimes you think of hiring someone you're like, "Oh, it's going to be so expensive." But it's like if they can get it, you know, 80% of the way there, then it's totally worth it for you to pay them to do that. If you can come up with your hourly rate and all those things, like
Right.
your whatever your hourly rate, you want that to be. And then think about how much you're paying them. You're like, oh, I'm actually saving money, not wasting my time doing this.
That's a really good one. And I know, especially as entrepreneurs, oftentimes it's very hard for us to delegate, right? It's very hard for us to treat our hobby like a business and actually running it like a business and putting people and systems in place. And I think that's like one thing I'm always telling people, like, if you can afford it or find a way to afford it, if it can
Yeah.
save you that time, if it can
Yeah.
save you that headache, if you don't
Yeah.
like talking with clients, hire someone that enjoys talking to clients, and finding
Mhm.
just those different ways to help keep yourself balanced, but also to help your business run without you having to solely play every role in your business.
Yes. 100%. I always say that, me and my husband 'cause we're definitely, just one kid because 'cause I'm too old, and if I get pregnant, I might lose my mind, at this point. But, it could still happen, but I'm like, "Please, for the love of God." Um, so I think that I always say that people who have more than one kid are a little woo, but there's a lot of people who do, and I'm like, "Good for them," but I'm like, it's I do wish that I had another kid, but motherhood doesn't always work out the way that you think, and you don't always get pregnant when you think you will. Sometimes you get pregnant and you have a miscarriage like I did. So it's like, it's just, you never know how long it's going to take. Like I had all my plans. Like I was like, I'm going to have a kid at 32 and then I'm going to have another kid at 34 or 35. But I didn't have a kid till I was 35. So, and it was a high risk, even though I had a good pregnancy, it was a high risk pregnancy, not just because of advanced maternal age. But it was a high risk because I like have a disorder that causes blood clotting that I found out when I was pregnant. So it made me like super, super high risk. So, which also made me nervous to get pregnant again, even though I had a good experience being pregnant.
Right. And I think that's something that we often don't talk about, especially when it comes to like age, right? So even for me, I'm 34 having my first, and I remember so many people being in my ear about you're waiting, you're taking too long, you're
Mm,
waiting too long, you're doing all these different things. But sometimes people don't realize one, the journey is not smooth for every woman. It's not easy
mm-mm,
for every woman. I had a
no,
miscarriage last year as well. And it's like
mm-mm.
there's so much that goes into that and people don't realize it. And then also, even just the process of planning when you are an entrepreneur and just planning your life, you shouldn't just base it around your age. You know, you want to make sure that you're comfortable and you're ready mentally, emotionally, and all that to be able to go through that.
Yep, 100%.
So, from having your first and then going through the toddler stage and of course you like you said you were still in your full time at that point. How were you
Yeah.
able to get to the point of where you're making six figures in your business is running good, and you're still able to balance being a mother and showing up as a mother?
So there's a saying, and I'll probably get it wrong, but it's something along the lines of, you've got four burners, and they each represent different things in your life. And you can never have all four burners on at the same time. So there are seasons in your life where motherhood takes precedence. And then there's other seasons in your life where maybe you're not as great of a mom, but you're like killing it in your business. And I've missed things in my son's life because I didn't find out about the date until after I had a big gig booked that I cannot move. And that just like breaks your heart. Like even recently, um, there was a different date on my calendar for a magazine shoot, and then they changed it to the day that my son starts school. And so like I couldn't be here to like, because on the first day of school you get to take him in, and I couldn't do that. And that really, and granted, he's in second grade, so it's not like if it would have been kindergarten, like his first day, like I wouldn't have missed that. But like I had to tell myself, I'm like, it's second grade, like it's not like a big transition. So I just like you gotta kind of when things like that come up and your work interrupts motherhood, you gotta really think about, okay, is this like a crucial thing in their life that like I'm gonna regret forever? Okay, then I'm gonna like move this shoot or do whatever I need to do. But I'm like, it was his first day of second grade. It's okay. So, and my husband took him. So it's like, it's fine. But I was bummed out for sure.
Right.
For
And
sure.
so what have you done to be able to balance that? So are you a calendar girly? Are you like, I
Like,
need to make sure that this is here and I know ahead of time so I can plan
no. I'm
accordingly?
a psycho calendar girly. Like everything goes on my calendar. And speaking of that, like whatever works for people who have spouses or whatever. But like for me, like for instance, well, tomorrow I don't have a photo shoot, but I got a doctor's appointment. So it's like I put it in my husband's calendar, like, hey, you're with him in the morning. Like it's in his calendar. If I have a photo shoot that's going to go over, like it's in his calendar, like, hey, you need to be home to get him off the bus. Like, so that's how I manage being able, and my husband usually has that stuff in his calendar way before, so he doesn't book something. And then if he forgets to put something in the calendar, like then it's a all out, like you didn't put it in my calendar, you don't get to go to that, like kind of thing.
Man.
Yeah. I'm
I
like, you didn't put it in my calendar. I have this thing booked. You don't get to go. But if he had something in my calendar and I overlooked it, then I'm like, all right, I'll try to, you know, figure it out.
Right.
So,
And that's one thing, I'm a calendar girly, and me and my
mhm.
husband have been fighting because 'cause I'm trying to get him to fall in love with the calendar as much as I do. And I'm like, "We're going to have to now that we're having a child." Like,
So
yes.
that's the suggestion. What I do, because my husband, I don't know what type of job your husband has, but I send all the invites to his work email.
Mm,
So they like I have a lot of emails, but I have my personal one and they all come from my personal calendar. Like it just like says Tommy with the Atlas. And now because I know he'll forget to leave work early if he has to be with him at 4, I put it in his calendar at 3:15. And but I'll say in the subject line like Tommy with the Atlas at 4. So it's like you need to leave work, you got to be home.
that's smart. That's smart. Learn. You have to learn just the tips and tricks to help your husband be the best support that he could be. You know.
That's right. That's right.
Awesome. So, are there other suggestions that you would give a first-time mom who is an entrepreneur about to start this journey?
Man, get your systems in place. Like you gotta have really good systems. Basically, for anyone, I don't care who you are, what you're doing. Like if you don't have good systems in place and you don't have a good business, like all the business part figured out, you will never succeed. Period. Like that is more important than how talented you are. I don't care how good your photos are. Like you and I both know like you've probably seen people come and go that have gotten to photography and you're like, wow, your work is so good. But then they don't most creatives don't care about business, which is literally the most important thing. Your business, like running a photography business, for instance, I would say is 80% business, 20% actually photographing. It's all about the client experience, all those things. So it's so much more important to have those things because if you don't have those things in place and your kid ends up in the hospital and you've got, things are going to happen, you've got those things going on and you don't have systems, so many things are going to fall through the cracks. Like so many things.
That's a really good one. Now, in the season of building a family and a business at the same time, we know that it's not smooth. We know that it's not easy. We know that it's not just plug and play, you know?
Mhm.
There's some days where it does feel like it gets a lot. What are things
Yeah.
that you've been able to do to help yourself mentally stay the course and to stay sane in that process?
Therapy. Therapy's a good one. Um, I finally started going to therapy when I was 40 and I'm 42 now. So, haven't been recently, but that is very helpful, just like helping you cope with life. Taking time for yourself, which I'm still really bad at because I'm one of those people, if you've ever seen like an Instagram reel or something where it's like, I wish I could relax and be more productive. Like that's totally me, where I'm like, I might be like, you know what, I'm just gonna lounge out. And like the whole time, even if I'm lounging, I'm thinking, oh, I really need to write that blog. I really need to write that person back. I really need to. So I still struggle with that. But I'm really trying to find time for myself, and not just my business and just my family. Like it's really hard because you're like, you always could be better at any of those. But it's just realizing, hey, I'm never going to be better at those unless I take care of myself.
And
So,
I think that that's one of the, most important things that I've heard from a lot of women where it's like, "Don't forget yourself in this process." Like, don't
yes,
forget who you were before, don't forget who you are, don't forget your goals, like, your goals shouldn't die because now that you're a mother,
yes,
and not forgetting that and still giving yourself that love and that attention that you deserve yourself to be able to fill your cup.
amen. Yep.
Awesome, awesome. So, last thing I want to thank you again for sharing all of this. This is so informative and definitely has been helpful to me, and I know it's going to help so many other women. Is there one last piece of advice that you would give an entrepreneur or a woman on showing up and not having guilt when you can't?
Whoo. It probably would be don't compare yourself so much with everyone else's highlight reel. Because you're just mainly seeing a highlight reel, like, "Oh my god, like, she's got it so easy, like, look, she's always out at the park and, like, takes these photos," but, like, you don't see all the, like, screaming and the tantrums and the throwing themselves on the floor. Oh, and yesterday they ate a marble, like, all the things, and I thought they were gonna die, but I'm not gonna share all that with you. I'm just gonna share, like, "Oh my god, my kid's so cute." Even I do that. So I think the comparison, whether it's business or personal, is probably the killer of your joy the most. It really is. Just, you know, That definitely I definitely have fallen into that trap, but I don't much anymore because I've spent enough time with moms and their children, and, I'm like, "Wow," and also you'll, like you will compare sometimes your kids and be like, "Oh, at least my kid does" "My kid doesn't do that," or whatever, which is so stupid. But you do that, but it makes you feel better, which is fine. But then at the same on the same token, you're like, "Oh, I wish my kid, like, did that?" So I think comparison, don't do that as much as
Beautiful.
possible.
Beautiful.
Unless it
So
makes you feel better, then do it.
if it helps, if it hurts, don't do it. If it helps, do it.
Yes, right, right.
Awesome, awesome. Well, Tasha, thank you so much for this. I've learned so much in this, and I know it's going to help another woman. Thank you for being honest and for sharing your story. And I can't wait to one, continue to see where your business goes. And also, your videos have been amazing. I love your
Thank you.
personality and all of that, but I'm so happy that you're not hiding your personality and you're pushing that
No.
out to the world. So thank you again for being such a light.
Yes, thank you so much. You're amazing.
Thank you. Bye. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode of Baby Bump and Business. I hope today's conversation reminded you that you are not alone on this journey and that there's so much power in building something beautiful while becoming someone new. If you've enjoyed this episode, please take a moment to rate, review, and share it with another mama or creative who needs the encouragement. Your support helps this community grow and lets more stories like ours be heard. To stay connected and get updates on new episodes and real talk from creative moms like you, be sure to follow us on Instagram at Baby Bump and Business. Until next time, keep creating, keep growing, and give yourself all the grace that you deserve.